going on, everybody? Welcome to the DFS Dose late night live stream. Back again for the second time this week. Hope you guys all had a good Thanksgiving. But now we move on. We focus on the main slate for week 12 on DraftKings.
Yes, sir.
What a slate it is.
Yeah, how was your Thanksgiving, bro? Did you get stuffed or what?
Yeah, man, I had a good Thanksgiving.
Did you win? That's what I should have led with. Did you win?
No
money.
I did. I got stuffed. I got stuffed in a terrible way. if you know what I'm saying. I had DeAndre Swift in like every lineup, so it was chalked for me.
Yeah, well, I didn't win either, so right there with you. What are you gonna do?
Hopefully win.
I have no words.
Well, hopefully what we can do is make it all back this week. I mean, I'm feeling good about this slate. I think this is an interesting slate. I really like the different ways that you can go in tournaments on this slate, and we'll talk about that for sure. I think cash is pretty straightforward this week, although, I mean, some of these other bigger tout websites have some plays that I don't really agree with as their number one plays on the week. So I might have a different type of cash lineup than the popular ones this week. I don't know how you're feeling.
Yeah. Did I win the Millie last week? Absolutely not. Haven't even came close besides the showdown slate for the Patriots and Falcons going into the fourth quarter. So after 3, I was in 15th in the Millie Maker showdown. And then I ended up finishing like 3,000th. So that's how that went. I had the worst run out of all time. Because that's just what happens to me. Maybe I just need to like change my mindset, which I've been trying to do. Trying to speak things into existence. Law of attraction type stuff over here. But it's hard when you consistently run bad. Whenever you need something to happen, and the opposite happens every single goddamn time, no matter what.
Right now you're speaking that into existence. Right?
That is
you got to separate from that because this week we're about to run pure as fuck. All right, that's how I'm feeling. What up, Houston? OG, how you doing, buddy? All right, let's start off at the quarterback position. And I don't think that much has changed at QB for me this week since the time that we recorded the podcast. I still think that as far as cash games go, there's really 2 standout plays. The only 2 guys that I would consider would be Jalen Hurts at 7,300 and Cam Newton at 5,600. And the savings are just really hard to get away from, to just go down to Cam, I think, for cash games at least.
Yeah, I mean, Cam is projecting very well. He's one of the top values on the slate at the quarterback position. So it doesn't really get much easier than playing Cam Newton in cash. I don't think this week. 5,600, good spot against Miami. Their pass defense is a little bit tough, but the rushing upside for Cam Newton is as good as it's ever going to be, right? So I don't think you get too cute. You either play Cam Newton or you play Jalen Hurts if you really want to go up to him. But Cam Newton is the guy this week for sure.
See, the thing about Jalen Hurts to me this week is that he's starting to look like a really, really enticing tournament play because it's not a hard play to make. There's value all over the slate at running back, at wide receiver, and at tight end. I mean, comparatively. But at quarterback, there's really not too many guys that have the ability to separate, in my opinion, this week. A lot of the top guys are off the slate. No Lamar, no Josh Allen, no Mahomes. No Kyler, no Russ, like all these guys are off the slate. And then Jalen Hurts, who has an immense ceiling, is one of the only guys here. And he's projecting under 10% owned. He's outside of the top 5 in projected ownership at the position. And he has some easy stack partners as well, particularly Dallas Goddard, in my opinion. So I don't know. Jalen Hurts is looking like one of my favorite GPP plays this week at quarterback.
Yeah, if you can get Jalen Hurts at 6 to 10% ownership in GPPs, I think he is a pretty great play. We're obviously not too scared of this Giants defense. The rushing upside is very high, but The passing upside, I think right now with this Eagles offense is extremely low. And I don't really see a way, unless he has another 3 rushing touchdown performance, that Jalen Hurts can break the slate with the Eagles, going to this run heavy offense. So I think the floor is extremely high, and that's why he's in play for cash games. But I think the ceiling is lower than Stafford, Brady, even Justin Herbert, who is 700 cheaper. So I think I prefer those guys in GPPs, just because at this price tag, second highest priced quarterback on the slate, like, he definitely has to do something through the air, but I don't know if we're going to see that like for the rest of the season with Jalen Hurts.
Mhm. It's so difficult because they had a long stretch where they were one of the past happiest teams in the league, in terms of pass rate over expectation.
And they were losing.
And they
And
were
now
losing.
they've
Right.
been winning by flipping that philosophy. As you can see here, Jalen Hurts after week 7, 14, 17, 23, 24, which is cool. And, you're going to need this game out of him to reach 30 at this point with this Eagles offense. So I think Jalen Hurts is actually a pretty easy guy to not play this week, especially at the second highest price tag on the slate. But the ownership is low enough where I think, full fading him isn't probably the move. I would just be in line with the field on Jalen Hurts.
So where are you looking at quarterback this week in tournaments? Who stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, nobody really. I think this is a classic stack the Bucks, stack the Rams week, and you'll win money most likely. The Bucks have a pretty good spot, in my opinion. Going on the road in a dome against this Colts defense that hasn't been too great against opposing quarterbacks and opposing wide receivers. It's a better spot for Mike Evans rather than Chris Godwin, as the Colts defense gives up more points to outside receivers rather than slot receivers so far this season. But I love both of them to pair with Brady. And then you obviously got the cheap guy in like Gronk. And then Stafford on the road in Green Bay. I think this is a bounce back spot going up against a secondary that just got torched by Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen last week. And the stacking partners with Stafford are pretty simple as well. We know where the ball is going in that offense. So I think it doesn't get much easier than, playing the Bucks, playing the Rams, and calling it a day.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that I agree with you there. I do still like Hurts. I think Burrow's interesting a little bit at 6,200, but
I mean, didn't mean to cut you off, but it's like on an ugly slate like this, and with the lack of upside at the quarterback position, I think the move is to just go heavy on the quarterbacks that we've seen have the highest ceilings this year. And in my opinion, there's only 2 of them on this slate so far that I'm looking at, and that's Tom Brady and Stafford and Justin Herbert. Maybe include him in there. So I think in terms of GBPs, those are going to be the only 3 guys that I consider, honestly. Like, I'm going to have a very, very narrow quarterback pool and maybe throw some Cam Newton in there as well.
I think there's 2 ways to look at it. There's that way that you just mentioned, and then there's the way that with so many of the high ceiling quarterbacks off the slate that, you might be able to scrape by with, like if Stafford gets 25 and Daniel Jones and Carson Wentz get 20 at the savings you're getting, I think it's a lot better this week. I think there's a lot less chance this week that one of these guys separates, drops a 40 spot. And if, these top guys aren't breaking 30, if they're only putting up 30, if you can get 20, 25 out of somebody sub 6K or the Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow in that mid tier, I think that is probably going to be the optimal, especially because there are so many high priced options on the slate with big ceilings like Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, CMC, Jonathan Taylor, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that viewpoint, and I'm not disputing that by any means, but it's really like Stafford is 800 more than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
And Yeah, Kirk Cousins can obviously get there. We saw it last week. He scored 28. But in terms of, ranges of outcomes, I think Matt Stafford has a better chance to hit his ceiling going up against Green Bay rather than Kirk Cousins hit his ceiling once again in this spot against San Francisco, and he's 800 cheaper, right? And Joe Burrow is 900 cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the salary savings that you're getting is crazy enough to get off a guy like Stafford or Brady or even Herbert to play some of these guys that we've seen this season just have a very wide range of outcomes and very low ceilings, in my opinion. Like Joe Burrow, only 2 games over 25 points all year, as you could see. So I think this week on an ugly week, I want the highest upside stacks as possible, and that's Brady, Stafford, Herbert, and call it a day. So I'll take the guaranteed points on a slate like this, where there's not a lot of those to be had, in my opinion.
No, that's definitely solid. So you're not going to be interested in any of this this Big Ben stuff that I was about to tout?
Bruh.
5,200?
Are people playing Ben Roethlisberger this week?
No.
No.
That's the point. But
At
everybody's
1%.
playing. But everybody's playing Deontay and Freiermuth like they're the hottest assets in fantasy football. But nobody wants to play the quarterback that they're attached to. So I don't know. Seems like a leverage spot if you ask me. But.
I mean, if you play Big Ben in fantasy football, like any format, you should probably retire. No bullshit. This dude, he shouldn't be in anybody's player pool. Like, he's 5,200. Like, I'd rather play Zach Wilson for 100 cheaper or Tyrod Taylor for 100 more.
Hey, we might be able to get Big Ben's second 20-plus point game of the year this week. I don't know.
I guess my last question in terms of quarterbacks is those 2 guys I just mentioned in that Jets and Texans game. Do you have any interest in those guys or any interest in, some of the skill position players? I know that, a lot of people assume that these 2 trash teams can produce some fireworks going up against bad defenses, but it's like, does playing trash equal treasure? Probably not.
No, it probably equals trash, mathematically speaking.
It probably equals more trash, but some of the props that I've looked at on Prize Picks, the lines are so good in that game, and I'm kind of leaning towards betting some of those. And some of the guys in that game are very cheap as well. I mean, we could talk about it when we get to running back and wide receiver, but no interest in Zach or Tyrod.
No, and I mean, I love Elijah Moore this week, but I'm going to be playing him strictly as a one-off, And okay. I would say the same thing about Brandon Cooks. It's like I just don't know what upside you're possibly getting out of either of those guys. So
yeah, makes sense.
At the running back position, we already had a question in chat. The real question is Cam and CMC together in cash. Like, yeah, absolutely. In my opinion, I think that CMC is a standout play this week. He's a standout play every single week as long as he's going to have this role. And the fact of the matter is that, so much of his production is correlated with Cam. Like you see it over the last 2 weeks, 18 targets. He's put up, we saw it in week 10 where he put up 26 points without a touchdown. He had the touchdown last week and it was a receiving touchdown. So I don't think that they negatively correlate in the same way that a lot of running backs and receivers do. Huge part of CMC's game is the receiving work, and he's Cam's most reliable weapon. So yeah, I have no problem playing the 2 of these guys together. You're obviously paying for CMC, but Cam is just so discounted right now that I think that, it's completely fine. You're not really cannibalizing much upside, I think, by playing the 2 together.
Yeah, I think that's the important point, is that Cam is cheap enough to where he could get there at his price tag with CMC also getting there. It'd be a different conversation if Cam was like in the 7Ks, because then he would need more to get there, if that makes sense. Like, he would need probably more on the ground and more through the air. I mean, through the air would help CMC as well, but if Cam's hitting his ceiling, especially at an elevated price tag, it's probably due to like rushing touchdowns, which takes away from CMC. But at 5,600, it doesn't take much for Cam to hit value. And anytime CMC's under 9K, it's just a total jam. Like, he's going to project the best out of any running back any single week that he's on the main slate. His receiving role, as you can see right here, and Ben mentioned, is, one that we can only dream for in terms of our running backs for fantasy football. And he gets work on the ground as well. And there's goal line upside there. He's a goal line back, touchdown upside. Obviously, Cam has goal line equity as well, which kind of hurts, but I'm not scared to play both of these guys. I think it's totally fine due to his crazy receiving role. But CMC, I think, is a total jam. Other than that, I mean, JT, I think this is going to be another week where nobody plays him.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing, right? This man drops 56 points. People fade him because of a tough matchup, and they absolutely didn't learn their lesson. He's going to be under 10% again this week just because of a tough matchup, even though it's the only game on the slate with the total above 50. It's a pretty large gap between that and the next game. Even the Colts have a good total. It's not like the Bucs are massive favorites in this spot. I think the line right now is, it's only 3 points. So this is supposed to be a really tight game. And as you have said multiple points throughout this week, Jonathan Taylor, he just scores points right now. He's just scoring fantasy points, and it is what it is. We got to accept it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that easy. And it's like something that I haven't been doing. Like, I haven't played Jonathan Taylor like at all this season. Besides, I believe I played him against the Jets in cash, or not the Jets, the Titans. But he just scores fantasy points, right? That's all you need. And if he gets you 20 plus at 9K, you'll take it. He's going to project worse than CMC, which I think makes CMC the preferred lean in cash, but I wouldn't fault anybody for going JT. Like, he's a great play.
In terms of value, we have a question here, Miles Sanders in cash. And I referenced at the top that, there's a lot of popular plays, I think, this week that I'm not necessarily on. And this is one of them. I mean, it's hard because the Eagles have shifted so run-centric, and it's a decent spot against the Giants. But I mean, God, like, this man has one game since week 1 with over 10 fantasy points on DraftKings. Even in last week's game where he had 16 touches and fell just short of the bonus, he was only playing on 46% of snaps. No Jordan Howard maybe is a boost for him, but I still think Gainwell's going to be involved. I still think Boston Scott's going to be involved. As you can see right there on the game log, he's a non-factor in the passing game at this point. I don't know, man. I don't like Miles Sanders personally, but from a construction standpoint, you're really comparing him to, I think, the wide receivers in this price range, and I prefer almost all of them. I prefer T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, Pittman, Elijah Moore, like all those guys who are really similar in price at wide receiver. I prefer to Miles Sanders. So I personally am not going to be playing him. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I think that the projections are going to favor Miles Sanders. Like, he's currently in the optimals. He's 5,100, cheap. I think you could probably project for him to see between 15 to 20 attempts, I would think, in this spot. We already talked about how the Eagles have trended more run heavy. They've been the run heaviest team in the league over the last month. The Giants are the 5th worst defense against running backs in terms of DraftKings points allowed. They're the 5th worst defense in terms of rushing yards allowed. So it is a pretty good spot for the Eagles' rushing attack. The upside in the receiving game, non-existent. This, I don't know, it just reminds me of the Jeff Wilson play last week. The same exact play as Jeff Wilson, and we played him. I don't see a difference. I don't know what makes Jeff Wilson a better play than Miles Sanders this week. So I would be fine running Miles Sanders in cash. I mean, it is pretty, I don't know, it's pretty thin, and the ceiling, I think, is extremely low. You kind of need him to go over 100 yards and probably score a touchdown for him to really kill you, in my opinion.
I mean, I think it's actually hard to say because, like, it was what, like 6 days ago, but I don't even remember like the prices of the other players, but I don't remember the mid-range being as loaded as I feel like it is this week. Like, I think Darrell Henderson Jr. at 5,800 is a much superior play for $700 more. I prefer James Robinson at 6,200. And then even like Aaron Jones may return in this game. He did get limited practices in all week, which kind of takes A.J. Dillon out of play, but that situation itself is very tenuous. Like the Packers have been cautious with guys in the past coming back from injury, and they have a bye next week. So I wouldn't be surprised if they held Aaron Jones in this spot, which would put A.J. Dillon right back in play at 5,900. Barkley's projecting well. Like, I don't know. I prefer a lot of the other options to Miles Sanders at the position.
Yeah, no, I think that is the argument. Can you construct your lineup in a way where you don't have to play Miles Sanders? And I think that James Robinson and Darrell Henderson are the two guys that I would preferably like to pair with CMC, as I believe it is another 3 running back week.
Yes.
With Darrell Henderson being 5,800. We talked about it on the pod, but just a very cheap price tag for a guy that we know is going to be involved quite a bit in the offense. And as you could see, he's been trending downward lately, and maybe that continues against the Packers. Who knows? But I think he's going to project as one of the best plays. And at 5,800, I think he is a pretty good bet to see 15 to 20 touches, and he obviously factors well into the receiving game. So he is my second favorite play at the running back position. And then I guess it's a question of, like, do you prefer Saquon, James Robinson, Patterson if he's healthy? Personally, I think I would prefer James Robinson. He seems to be the healthy one of the bunch. As you could see, he practiced in full on Friday. No injury designation. Atlanta is one of the worst defenses against running backs. And Carlos Hyde is a non-factor at this point in the season. So in cash, I kind of want to get to James Robinson and CMC and Darrell Henderson as my 3 RBs. Honestly, like, I don't know if that'll work, but that's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's definitely a core that I would feel comfortable with. I mean, to me, James Robinson is the play that I would prioritize the most outside of CMC, who's kind of obvious. But if I'm deciding between Barkley, Cordero Patterson, Miles Sanders, Darrell Henderson even, and I am only picking one, I think James Robinson is my guy. I mean, there's not too many spots that you can project a positive game script for Jacksonville and, a game script that favors James Robinson. And this is actually one of them in a really favorable spot at home against Atlanta. So I like him quite a bit. I bet his prop earlier on Prize Picks today for over 13 fantasy points, which just seems incredibly low for this spot. And I feel really good about that. So I don't know. I like James Robinson the most.
Yep. And I also like James Robinson over 13.5 receiving yards if the people out there want to bet on Prize Picks. Atlanta gives up, well, let me see here. I just had it up. Atlanta gives up over 6 catches per game to opposing running backs, which is 7th worst in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a good spot for James Robinson to get 14 receiving yards. I think I'm going to have a lot of bets on Prize Picks tomorrow because there's just some bad lines.
Yeah, some of the lines are highly questionable, and it's surprising because usually they're extremely sharp, I would say. So
no. Did you see those Thanksgiving lines?
I did.
Those were horrible.
It's the first time I've cashed on Prize Picks in like 3 weeks. So I definitely saw those.
If you're watching, you're not in the Discord, join the Discord. Link is down below in the description. At the bottom of it, we put our bets on Prize Picks in the Discord, and we talk about props if you want to get in the prop game.
Good game to be in, I would say.
Yeah, the lines on Thanksgiving were terrible. Cashed out well on Thanksgiving, so that kind of saved the night and left me, feeling pretty good after that night. But
thoughts on Herbert, Robinson, Henderson, I'm assuming Deontay Johnson, Godwin, Mike Williams, Gronk, Mitchell. I think it could use a little work, low key. I mean, if this is a cash lineup, I would be going down to Cam for sure. And I would be finding, anything I could possibly do to get off of Mitchell.
Yeah.
Mitchell might not even
For
play.
Mitchell is not going to play, in my opinion. They said he couldn't even carry the ball in his dominant hand. So
Yeah. Is this the cash video or top stacks video? This is neither, good sir. This is
this
this
is
is
the live
this is the
stream.
late night live stream. Both of those videos are on the channel though. You can check that out.
But in terms of other running backs, I think that is the cash core. So for everybody watching, the cash core at running back, JT, CMC, Saquon, I think, James Robinson, AJ Dillon if Aaron Jones is out, but Adam Schefter just tweeted that's probably going to be a decision made based out of pregame warmups, but it would make sense for Aaron Jones to not play because the Packers do have a bye next week. Darrell Henderson and then Miles Sanders.
That would set up really well for a pivot to AJ Dillon if you're down.
Yeah, that's a late swap situation for sure. Especially since we're not going to get the news until 4.
Mm-hmm. In terms of some other plays, because that's our, cash core, but a lot of people are interested in guys like Ty Johnson at 4,300, Dontrell Hilliard at 4,600. I mean, are any of these guys at like the bottom of the barrel standing out to you? I mean, do you have any interest in Ty Johnson or Dontrell Hilliard this week in a depleted week for both teams?
Nah, I mean, it's just too thin. If Foreman was out, I would probably play Hilliard. But the way, yeah, that's my bad. I didn't put out the top stacks video, so Ben lied to you. Yeah, I fucked up this week.
Damn,
Never put that out. Thanksgiving was this week, and I was just kind of lazy. I'm not gonna lie, but so I sold. But the top stacks for the video would have been Rams and Bucks, and it's teams I've already touched on the pod in this live stream. It's an ugly week, but Hilliard 46. I like his prize picks lines. Going back to that, I think those are bad lines on prize picks because he did play 60% of the snaps, and his rushing prop on prize picks, if I'm not mistaken, is like 18.5 or something crazy low, and then his receiving line is right around the same. And I think the way this backfield plays out is Foreman is the early down rusher, and Hilliard is like the change of pace third down back. And with obviously no talent on the offensive side of the ball for the Titans, they should be losing in this spot. Although, you want a fun fact, Mike Vrabel is 9-0 in games after the Titans have lost by 10 or more points. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
So pretty good track record after losing for Mike Vrabel. A little betting tip for all the people out there. But so yeah, that's how I think the situation shakes out. Is Foreman is the early down rusher, Hilliard change of pace, receiving back. So they're out of play, and Ty Johnson kind of the same thing. Tevin Coleman, I think, takes over as the rusher, and Ty Johnson takes over as the primary pass catching back with no Michael Carter there, who was placed on IR today.
It's hard because, like you said, they're both like just extremely thin, but there's small reasons to like them. Yeah, as Jared notes, Titans have no offensive left.
Nobody.
And we saw it even last week. Like Hilliard had 10 targets. Like at 4,600, that's definitely interesting on DraftKings. Like it is. And his prize picks line of 18.5 receiving yards is like, God damn, I might have to bet that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. His line, there's just some bad lines, and I think that the Hilliard line, I'll pull it up right here for everybody to see. I think this line right here is one of the best for week 12.
That seems like a really good bet, but at the same time, I don't know how on DraftKings it translates to what type of ceiling he has. I don't want to trust him in cash, and I just don't know if I believe there's a ceiling. Ty Johnson, I think there's like an outside chance that he has a ceiling. What's his prop at? Yeah, 18.5 receiving. I guess that's just the line for bum running backs is 18.5.
Like I said, Ty Johnson is taking over as the primary pass catching back in this offense. I don't think Tevin Coleman plays that role. So, we're giving out some DFS advice. We're giving out some prize pick bets. But yeah, those are two of my favorite bets for week 12 is Ty Johnson over 18.5 and Dontrell Hilliard over 18.5 receiving yards.
I mean, I think Ty Johnson is like legit a decent player. He even had a 100-yard rushing
And
game
Corey
last
Davis
year.
is out, and
Yes.
43.5 on Elijah Moore still.
Yes. It hasn't changed at all, which is absurd. Like they've still got Corey Davis on there, which is, I don't know what that's about. But...
He's technically doubtful. He's not out yet.
Right. But so he was doubtful. And we were talking about it in the Discord at like 1 or 2 o'clock PM earlier, and they haven't changed Elijah Moore's prop at all, which is crazy. Yeah. So yeah, I would be hammering that while that's still available.
Any interest in these top end running backs? I think there's some decent pivots at the top of the running back pool.
Yeah, definitely. I like Jonathan Taylor. We already talked about. I like him. Najee Harris, I think, is interesting because he is a direct pivot off of some of the chalkier players at the other positions, specifically Deontay Johnson, who's going to be one of the chalkiest wide receivers, as well as Pat Freiermuth, who is going to be gaining some steam and ownership this week as well. Last time the Steelers played Cincinnati, Najee Harris got 19 targets. So I don't know if that's indicative of what we would expect here. I don't think it is, but Najee Harris, I think it's just interesting as GPP leverage off of other chalk plays. And yeah, in the chat, Jared says Austin Eckler. For sure. I don't want to chase the 4 touchdown performance. He's all the way up at 8,400. And at that price, I think I would rather find a way up to Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey. But I mean, Eckler is obviously a guy who can do it any given week in any given matchup.
I just hate playing like Broncos games. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like those games are just so slow paced and like I don't know. I never play any games involving the Broncos ever.
So are you off of Javonte Williams' breakout week? Because that's been a huge topic of conversation all week. He's priced at 5,200 and
like, obviously respect the people putting out content because it takes some degree of balls to put out content on the internet. But all these people have been saying it's Javonte Williams breakout week for 11 weeks in a row. Like, come on, bro, get over it. Like, there's no Javonte Williams breakout week. Okay, this is a committee. It's probably going to be a committee for the rest of the season. People are saying to like trade for him. Like, what league are you in where the trade deadline hasn't passed? Right? It's like week 12. How can you still make trades? I don't know. It's a good matchup. Like here, it's a strictly matchup based play, but there's no other really good merit to play him off of.
The theory is that the Broncos went into the bye and they came out with this new realization. That's what people keep saying. That's a narrative. I don't believe it personally.
Realization that, that Melvin Gordon is dust, which he probably is, and Javonte Williams is better. I mean, shouldn't they have realized that through the entire season? Like they've had 10 games of evaluation. Don't you think that they go and watch film and they probably have seen Javonte Williams be better and they still give Melvin Gordon touches? Like, come on, bro. Like sometimes we just have to use critical thinking. like what? There's been no indication of Melvin Gordon not being involved in this offense. But
I agree with you. I think it's a fishy play, but people have been talking about it. Which Pats running back this week?
Well, it looks like Stevenson is hurt and is truly questionable. If he's out, where's Damian Harris?
He's priced up, like too high up to play.
Yeah, Damian Harris, 6,100 at home against Tennessee. I mean, I think he's only in play if Stevenson is actually out, and if
he was, it would still be Taylor and Bolden working in, right?
Yeah, Bolden will take over as the primary pass catching back and the third down back, and Damian Harris would just be a touchdown guy. Like you would need him to score a couple touchdowns, so probably a better play on FanDuel, especially in the range that he's in with Henderson, Dillon. God damn, Aaron Jones is 6K. I mean, he's hurt though, but Saquon, CPAT, like he's a significantly worse play than those 4 running backs.
Yep, I agree. Thoughts on Miles Sanders? We touched on it already, but I mean, I'm personally staying away. Joey compared it to the Jeff Wilson Jr. play of last week, but the difference this week is that there's just better plays for slightly more money. Like, I would be trying to do what I could to find my way up to, the James Robinson, Darrell Henderson tier over Miles Sanders. He's just a guy who doesn't have any ceiling. He doesn't have a role in the pass game anymore.
I mean, there were not as great of plays last week, but there were better plays in the mid-range that we could have pivoted to off of Jeff Wilson, but we still played him like fish.
We did. Right.
So I think he's cash viable for sure. Good matchup. You're going to get 15 to 20 touches out of Miles Sanders at 5,100. I like him for sure. Cameron Stafford and Pitts or Gronk.
Is that a DFS question?
If it's regular, or if it's just regular redraft, Stafford and Pitts, but
yeah, if it's not Cam, for sure, and on DraftKings. 3 running backs in cash this week. There doesn't seem like a lot of value. Yeah, I think it's a 3 running back in cash week.
This is a perfect transition into receiver. T. Higgins bust out week, Jared says. Yeah, this is going to be the week where nobody plays T. Higgins, as he is projecting for, let me see here. T. Higgins is projecting for solid ownership. He's not going to be top 5 or, top 10. And this is going to be the week where he snaps. I guarantee it. I will put money on it that this is T. Higgins' breakout week, just for the sole fact that nobody has played him, or add that people have played him, for like a month straight, 5 weeks straight. He finally busted last week, 3 points, and now this is his breakout 20-plus point game. I guarantee it. I will put money on it that happens.
Are you going to be playing him?
I would play him in cash if I had to.
Because the thing is that nothing has changed, that has made him a cash viable play for the past several weeks. So I think that he's still in play this week for cash. The thing that people are going to say are that they prefer plays that are slightly more expensive. They prefer Brandon Cooks. They prefer Michael Pittman. I don't know. How do you feel about those guys in comparison to T. Higgins this week?
Michael Pittman is interesting, 5,600. I mean, I think it's tough. From a value perspective, I think Pittman is going to project better. And I think the target tree is more narrow in Indianapolis, which works out for him. But if the Colts do get out to a lead, if they get out to a lead, the targets just aren't going to be there for Pittman to hit, in my opinion. If this is a close and competitive game and the Colts, get down by a touchdown or 2, I think Pittman is probably going to smash. I think he's a pretty great play. Probably a little bit of a better play than T. Higgins, but if I really needed the 200, I think I would feel comfortable going to T off of Pittman. And then Brandon Cooks, 5,800. It's tough. It's tough to play a Texans player in cash. It's tough to play a Jets player as well. And I would like to not play anybody from this game in cash.
I'm kind of on an island with this, but I think Elijah Moore is a standout play in this range. I mean, we saw his breakout game last week, went 8 for 141 and 1 on 11 targets. And the thing that people keep saying is that Zach Wilson's back. He never really had any chemistry with Wilson. And I'm like, dude, if he could get there with Joe Flacco and Mike White, he could get there with anybody. Okay. Zach Wilson's not that much of a downgrade off those guys, if he is at all. And I don't think that it's because Joe Flacco was playing that Elijah Moore broke out. I think it's because he played 80% plus snaps for the first time since week 1. You have to be out on the field to be getting the opportunity to get, catch passes from any quarterback. So I like Elijah Moore this week. I think after what he did last week, there's no denying that they're going to have no choice but to keep him on the field as a full-time player. And Corey Davis is doubtful for this game, which just strengthens the case, I think, for Elijah Moore. So I think he's cash viable, and the fact that his ownership is going to be really depressed this week, he's going to be one of my favorite plays in tournaments as well.
Yeah, I definitely like Moore. He's going to project a little bit worse than like T. Higgins, Pittman, Cooks in that range, just because of like the game environment, which I do prefer those guys to Moore. Just, for the sole reason, like I said, I really don't want to play a Jets player in cash. Like, I feel like there's just so many ways for it to fail, even though it is a great spot and Corey Davis is out. And then Aaron asked the top value receivers, how do you feel about Laviska and cash? I mean, if you really need to go there, I think it's fine with Jamal Agnew. As you could see, he's on IR now. They should theoretically figure out more ways to get Laviska involved in the offense now. And I don't know. I think I want to stay above 5K for all three of my wide receiver spots. I don't really feel comfortable punting off this week. There's really just nobody good in this range. I mean, if I'm punting, it's probably going to be with one of these Titans receivers that are just dirt cheap. But like I said, I'd rather just stay in this mid-range where a lot of these guys are projecting to be the highest owned players on the slate and the best values on the slate, like Higgins, Pittman, Cooks, etc.
Brandon Nyuk, somebody we haven't mentioned at 5,300, who I think is strongly in cash consideration as well.
Yep, Brandon Ayuk, 5,300. Back to the role that he had at the end of last season. And it should be a close game and competitive game for the 49ers and Vikings. So I definitely love Ayuk this week as well. He's a solid play, and could definitely play him in cash. Thoughts on that lineup?
I think it's a lot. I think it's solid.
That's the optimal.
Yeah, that's a good lineup for sure.
You can't go wrong running the optimal. Like if you could build that lineup just off like listening to people, like your process is pretty fucking good. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I agree. Kupp and Adams in cash or just GPP? How do you feel about that? I mean, I'll say that I think Cooper Kupp is not playable in cash, as crazy as that sounds with how consistent he's been. I think he's just been priced out of cash right now because you literally have to pay more for Cooper Kupp than Christian McCaffrey. You wipe away the positions and you just think about how you're allocating your salary. As great as Cooper Kupp's role is, and as amazing as it is for a wide receiver, it's still not as good as Christian McCaffrey's role at the position. So, if you're only going to be able to play one of these guys 9K plus, it's Christian McCaffrey for me. And that kind of takes Cooper Kupp out of consideration for cash. As great of a play as he is, I think he's definitely strong in tournaments, but I'm not going there in cash this week.
Yeah, I don't think you can go there in cash just because of the price and the lack of value at running back, lack of value at receiver. Obviously, great role that Cooper Kupp has, a very fantasy-friendly role. But if you really want to, you can get that same role with Devontae Adams. We talked about it on the pod, but there's very similar in every statistical category for receivers: air yard share, team share of targets, A dot, etc. for 1,000 cheaper. So I definitely prefer Devontae over Kupp in cash if you really want to get up to it. But I think this is a week where you're probably not going to get in that range because there's no value. So in my opinion, for cash games, I think Chris Godwin and Deontay Johnson are the best in this 7K below range. And it's probably the range that you're going to want to be in for your wide receiver 3 spot if you're, playing 2 mid 5K receivers. And I don't know, which one do you prefer out of these two?
I think that I prefer Deontay Johnson this week in cash. And it's just, for me with Deontay, it's the fact that he is so bankable to get double-digit targets. You just look at his game log. Like, this man's going to get 13 targets more times than he's not. Like, over the last 5 weeks, 13 in 4 out of the 5. Like, it's just such a bankable option. And then you look over at Chris Godwin, and obviously the ceiling is there for Godwin and you do love it, but he also has, only 2 games over the last 5 with double-digit targets. He's been very inconsistent all year with his target share. Gronk is back. Evans is going to play in this spot. Like, it could easily go to either of those guys in this spot. So, yeah, I mean, Godwin is a good play, but if he gets 6 or 8 targets, you're going to regret paying more to get to Godwin over Deontay Johnson, I think.
Yeah, I agree that I probably would prefer Deontay if I had to choose one. In a perfect world, we probably play both of these guys in cash because they're both projecting very well, and it is a good spot for both Deontay and Chris Godwin. But the $400 savings you get, the higher target upside, I think helps Deontay Johnson this week on DraftKings. So I definitely think Deontay is the preferred cash lane over Chris Godwin, but it's also a matter of, personal preference. I do think that Godwin definitely has a higher ceiling than Deontay Johnson, which you do have to consider, I think, in cash in 2021. Like, you can't just be strictly focused on floor, which Deontay has. But with this Steelers offense, the upside is so low. As you can see here, the probability that Deontay scores between 15 and 20 points is, I think, like 75, 80%.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Who's more of a priority in cash? Adams, Godwin, Pittman in terms of points per dollar? Pittman? Points per dollar wise, I would say. Godwin. I don't know. Points per dollar, Godwin is the best play from a projection standpoint. So I guess I would lean there. But at the same point, like I just said, I prefer Deontay in that range. So he would be my priority over all 4 of them.
Yeah, Deontay would be the best point per dollar play out of those guys. But if I had to pick one, it would be Godwin out of those 3.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But other than that, I think that covers all the cash game options. Who are some of your favorite tournament plays at wide receiver this week?
I'm addicted to playing Mike Williams. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because I hit on him once earlier in the year when he was like 3% and I want to recreate that. But God, like 5,700 is just way, way, way too cheap for Mike Williams, I think. I know the role has sort of regressed to what it's been in the past opposed to what we've seen at the beginning of this year. But I like Mike Williams at a sub 6K price tag. Like, I was playing him at, 7K plus multiple times this year. So I'm willing to do that. I also love Jamar Chase this week. Like, God damn, Jamar Chase is in such a good spot against the Steelers secondary. No Joe Hayden. Yeah. And even though the production hasn't been as great as it was at the beginning of the year, the opportunity hasn't changed at all. So 7,300, he's going to come in. Projections have him around, between 5 and 10%. So he's going to be low owned. And I love the opportunity to go with Jamar Chase this week.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot, but got to bring up it is an even week, which means 13-point game inbound. As you can see here, every even week, 13-point game. That's the analysis you tune in for right there.
True. I didn't even think about that. Scratch him off the player pool.
But I will say that I did see a tweet. I forget who posted it. So sorry about that. Got a credit, but don't know. I forgot who did. But it's like Jamar Chase was getting like quote unquote like lucky with the deep balls earlier in the season. And he's been like unlucky with the deep balls or, regressed to the mean with deep balls over the last couple of weeks, which is kind of why the production has dipped off. So I think a lot of his success definitely comes with those deep down the field targets, and you're really banking on him to score one of those to really win you a GPP. So
there might not be a player that I'm more confident in being able to do that right now. Like, yeah. Jamar Chase arguably the best deep threat receiver in the league this year. Like he's been even better than Tyreek in that way, which is kind of crazy to think about. But
yeah, no, I definitely agree. But I think all these wide receivers are good plays. Deebo Samuel is in a great spot. And what's he going to be like? Nothing in terms of ownership. No, he's going to be decent, like 10, 15%. I think he is a pretty good pivot off of these guys at the top and this mid-range as well. Keenan, probably want to go there, to be honest. Mike Evans, I love Mike Evans as the pivot off of Chris Godwin chalk for 200 more. And like I mentioned earlier, the Colts struggle against outside receivers quite a bit. So Mike Evans is as the clear-cut pivot off of Godwin looks very juicy.
I agree. I agree with that take for sure. Mike Evans is definitely a good play.
Guy offered me Stafford for Hilliard. Should I take it?
I mean, in a vacuum for sure, but like, who's your other quarterback? Like,
in a vacuum? No, you don't do that trade unless you're like starving at running back, and unless you have a top 10 quarterback to replace Stafford with.
No, he got offered Stafford.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, I read that wrong. Excuse me.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have Herbert, then I don't know. I mean, Stafford's a much better play. So,
I mean, yeah, if you didn't have Herbert, I would be like, fuck yeah, do it. But I think Stafford is safer from, a floor perspective than Herbert. But I think Herbert's fine.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. Really didn't answer his question.
Should I take it? No.
No,
I wouldn't take it. Let's see. Other wide receiver. I mean, we've kind of hit on everybody. Like the thing about this slate is there's just not that many great options. So the ones that you feel confident in, like, I'm not going to have a huge pool of players that I'm picking from. Like, I think that you have some naturally contrarian stuff you can do going up to Cooper Kupp, playing Jamar Chase. I love Elijah Moore in the mid range as a, contrarian pivot off the other guys. But like, other than that, I'm not going to get crazy. Like, I'm not playing any of these Titans punts. Like, I don't know. There's just a lot of bad plays on this slate that I have no interest in making. So, I mean, you can always justify playing any of these high ceiling guys like Debo, like Justin Jefferson. Like, they're all good plays if the ownership is right. And it will be for a lot of these guys.
Full PPR, pick 2, Damian Harris, Ty Johnson, Uncle Lenny, Javonte, or should I look at picking up Hilliard or David Johnson? Probably want to go with David Johnson or Hilliard in that spot.
Fournette's
a lock. Yeah, Fournette is definitely a lock.
Coin flip between Javonte and Damian, I think. If Ramondre Stevenson gets ruled out in the morning, I would probably go with Damian Harris. Otherwise, it would be Javonte, I think. I don't know. It might be Damian Harris either way, just because of the situation with the Titans being so grim.
Yeah, I think full PPR definitely helps Ty Johnson, but we just don't know how the touches are going to be split now with him and Tevin Coleman. But I could definitely see Ty Johnson getting there as well. Like we talked about, I love his props this week for Ty Johnson. But yeah, it's probably Damian Harris and Fournette there. Yeah, Justin Jefferson. So that brings up kind of the point that I want to talk about just in terms of like leverage and ownership. I think the Vikings and Rams. I think the Vikings and 49ers game is the best game from a leverage and ownership standpoint. You're getting a lot of upside at wide receiver with Justin Jefferson, Debo, Thielen, Ayuk is 5,300. The quarterbacks are cheap if you want to play, Jimmy G, who's 5,700, or Kirk 6,300, as you could see. And I definitely think that this game is, one of the best on the slate. It has a 49 total, which is the second highest on the slate. And it looks like the ownership on a lot of these guys is going to be very low. Ayuk is probably going to be a top 8 guy, but other than that, Debo, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, I think you'll probably get around 10% ownership and no ownership on the quarterbacks. So This is the GPP game of the week, in my opinion. Vikings 49ers. It's my favorite one to attack if you want to get different.
One of the points that I heard that made me think about this game differently is that both teams, if they're up ahead, are going to want to slow the game down, which I think lowers the ceiling because, if the 49ers are up, they're going to want to be running the ball. If the Vikings up, they're going to want to be running the ball. So, like, what are the scenarios where this game gets out of hand?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
That's the only thing that gave me pause on this game. It's like, I don't know if I want a full game stack this game, but there are definitely plays in this game, I think, that you can make with high ceiling. So I would just be careful about overexposing yourself to a game that has, I think, a decent probability to be like a slower paced game. If they won't all be able to get there if it ends up being a slow paced game. So I would just pick your spots, I think.
Yeah. I just think there is a lot of value when you consider ownership, salary, and projection with the players in this game. You're getting Justin Jefferson at under 10% ownership. You're getting Adam Thielen, same. You're getting Debo and Ayuk, probably like 12 or 13% ownership. Definitely not going to be the highest players on the slate. Maybe this is a mini stack type of situation where you play correlations of Justin Jefferson and Ayuk or Kittle and Thielen or something like that. And you don't play Jimmy Garoppolo or Kirk Cousins just because those guys' ceilings are so low. And even in a slower paced game, the receivers can definitely still get there on big plays for sure. But from a combination of those three things that I mentioned, value, salary, and ownership, I don't think there's any other game that comes close to this game, in my personal, honest opinion.
All right. Know what game you're going to be stacking up tomorrow.
One more. Full PPR. Pick 2. Devontae Smith, Michael Pittman, Lockett, Moore, or Bateman. So I think with like decisions like this, it definitely depends on like what's your record. Are you already behind due to the Thanksgiving slate? Do you have to shoot for ceiling? Are you like trying to play a little bit safer? You're projected to win. Because like if you're shooting strictly for ceiling, like it's Lockett and Pittman, I think, if I'm picking 2. I think it's probably them either way, but
I'm picking Elijah Moore over Lockett for sure this week.
Yeah, like from probably a floor perspective.
Yes,
from a ceiling perspective, Lockett has the highest ceiling out of these 5.
Yes, if you're behind, I would definitely prioritize Lockett over every other player.
Yeah, so he likes Moore. I think Pittman is a lock.
Yeah.
Devontae Smith, it's close. I don't know. I probably want to play him just because of the Eagles not throwing the ball anymore. Yeah, so 3rd place overall. So probably in a good spot in her league. I think you pick 2 out of Lockett, Moore, or Pittman.
Mm-hmm.
And who are the Seahawks playing? I don't even know.
Seahawks?
I don't. I literally
Aren't
don't
they
know.
playing? They're playing Washington, right?
Are they? Oh, it's a good spot for Lockett. I don't know. I prefer So Ben says Moore and Pittman. I say Lockett and Pittman. So
yeah,
I think it's close.
At least you're playing Pittman.
Yeah. So
tight end.
Somebody tweeted me that Kyle Pitts is a great play this week, and I agree. He's 6,100. Not playing him in cash. God, absolutely not. But I do agree he's probably, a pay up to be contrarian option at the tight end position. Let me see what he's projecting in terms of ownership. Probably like the 5th or 6th highest owned. So you get Kyle Pitts at a decent ownership. But in terms of cash, which we're the cash game guys, we're paying down, of course.
Not as far down as we'd like, though. Normally I'd like to be at that 3K type range, even less. But what's the lowest you're willing to go on tight end and cash? Is Jared Cook too thin? I think Jared Cook is too thin. Yeah. I don't know. How do you feel about Cook?
I think Cook is going to be one of the more owned tight ends for sure. which ownership, if you don't know, ownership usually dictates who the best plays are. Did you know that?
Most of the time. Most of the time.
Not Miles Sanders this week, though, right?
No, definitely not. And definitely not Jared Cook either. I mean, I talked a little bit of shit about him on the podcast earlier this week, but I am like full throttle ready to play Evan Ingram and get burned again at 3,800. Like, I don't know. Am I tweaking for that? Because I'm all aboard Evan Ingram. I know he hasn't done shit all year long, but I mean, you look at his game log, he's got double-digit points in, 3 of the last 4. Like, I would take a 10 spot out of Ingram here, and I think the ceiling is a little bit higher just because the target share should be higher. No Caden Smith, no Kyle Rudolph. Like, he's the only tight end with a pulse right now. He's in the ultimate matchup. The Philadelphia Eagles are the stone worst team against defending tight ends, so it's a good spot from him. What do we got? No Kadarius Toney, no Sterling Shepard. Like, God, like, there is no reason that everything doesn't just like fucking meet in the middle for Evan Ingram. I love it this week. And Josh in the says, what is Ingram's projected ownership on DK? It's not crazy. Like, he's not projecting to be the highest owned tight end. He's projecting outside of the top 5 in ownership. He's going to be around probably like, I think 10 to 15, probably, maybe less than 15, I would think.
I think ownership is going to get spread out at tight end this week. I think Evan Ingram is a pretty solid play. You mentioned it, but the Eagles are just terrible against tight ends. And I think just in general, the way they play defenses, they limit wide receiver production on the outside and deep down the field. So everything gets funneled to the middle of the field where the tight end usually plays at. And Evan Ingram, obviously, we know he's an athletic monster, but he is just so bad at football. Yeah. Like, I'm not even bullshitting you when I say this, that I have better hands than Evan Ingram. Like, without a doubt, point blank, period.
Bruh.
Don't even cap. This man can't catch a football.
Ingram can't catch. Yeah.
He's just so bad at football.
That's the downside to Evan Ingram, is that he can't catch.
He can't, I'm pretty sure anybody watching this can probably catch better than Evan Ingram. And he's a fucking NFL athlete. But the matchup, Jason Garrett, I think you didn't even mention that. Jason Garrett is gone.
Right.
That probably helps the Giants skill players a little bit. Like, anything is an improvement off of Jason Garrett. They have Freddie Kitchens as offensive coordinator now, who came in for relief after Hugh Jackson got fired that one year in Cleveland and kind of led Baker to that great rookie season that he had, and then had a down year the year after with Kitchens.
Immediately got fired afterwards. Yeah.
But it's an upgrade, I think. So you get the stone best matchup against the team that gives up the most catches and fantasy points to tight ends. You get the athleticism, but you get a guy that can't catch the fucking football.
Don't forget that half the targets from the Giants offense are on the bench this week. So
yeah, and that. So Ingram, I think, is a great play. And like I said, the ownership is just going to be spread out between like Gronk, Freiermuth, Evan Ingram, Jared Cook. I think are going to be the top 4 highest owned tight ends in terms of cash. Nah. I think people are off of Arnold this week.
I mean, that's interesting then, because Dan Arnold, like, for all the reasons that people like Laviska Shenault this week, you would think that Dan Arnold gets a boost. I know he's coming off of his worst game since getting traded, but he could realistically lead the Jags in targets, right?
Yeah. So, projections right now have Gronk as the highest owned tight end. Josh said highest owned, followed by Gronk. Projections are saying Gronk is going to be the highest owned, 4,400. Just because he's attached to the best quarterback. I think that's really all that is, in the best game environment. So if I have the salary, I prefer playing Gronk over Freiermuth, Evan Ingram, Dan Arnold, Jared Cook. If I don't have the salary, I'm fine with literally playing anybody that gets targets. Arnold, Ingram, Cook, whoever.
I just don't know what I believe with these projections, because you look and you see, I think Freiermuth, he's looking like he's projecting as the best value, but he's outside of the top couple of guys in ownership. And he sounds like he's been getting talked up in everything that I've listened to this week. So I think Freiermuth comes in with decent ownership this week, right?
Yeah. It's really just going to be a crapshoot at tight end.
None of these guys will be stone cold chalk.
Yeah, there's no clear-cut punt, which is going to really just have people choose from this range right here. Ingram to Gronk. Anybody of these guys, I think, besides Higbee is fine. And you know what, the tight end position is really going to come down to which one you pick. So you gun to your head, rank these guys in order for cash games. Gronk, Freiermuth, Arnold, Ingram. That's what the people want to hear. Who's your best to worst?
Best, Freiermuth, Ingram, Arnold, Gronk. I'm not playing Gronk, bro. I'm not doing it. I don't care. I'm not playing him, bro. He's old as hell. I can't do it.
Bro, he gets targets.
I know.
And touchdowns.
I know.
I mean, you're kind of capping. So I think it's very close. If I had to rank them, this is razor thin. I think one for me would be Gronk. I think 2 would be Evan Ingram, 3 Freiermuth, and 4 Dan Arnold. I think Gronk is in the best game environment. I think Evan Ingram has slate breaking athleticism and opportunity and matchup at 3,800. And then Freiermuth, I think, is a solid floor tight end, has touchdown upside. And then Dan Arnold, I mean, I'm just not playing a Jags player. No.
Besides James Robinson.
I'm not playing Dan Arnold probably in cash.
The last guy that we have to mention at the tight end position is probably Dallas Goddard, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not playing him, but
really, no. Goddard's projecting really well this week. I like him a lot.
Bro, has anybody won a Millie Maker or GPP this year by paying up at tight end?
Probably not. I'm thinking about it. No. But I mean, 4,800 isn't. You're not paying Kelsey prices,
bro. 4,800 is fucking. I don't even know. That's getting too rich. Anything over 4K is not great. That's just the position, though. We say it every week. You got to pay down. You got to save the salary and get the ceiling at the rest of your lineups in the rest of your positions that matter. So I'm always for just punting it down. And if I'm punting in GPPs, I mean, it's ugly, but I'll punt with Ryan Griffin. I don't fucking care.
Griffin
or Farrell Brown. Okay, this is ugly.
Who?
This is ugly GPP. Bottom of the fucking tight end pool type stuff. But he looks to be the tight end 1 now in Houston. And if he scores a touchdown at 2,800, Brady in the chat just said Ryan Griffin, same thing goes for him. If either one of them score a touchdown, below 3K at the position, I think that's all you need this week, honestly.
Bro, look at that man's face. I'm not playing him.
Yeah, this man is a goofball.
Boy's a stone goof.
Mo Alley Cox, 2,600. Yeah, I think Griffin and Farrell Brown are a little better, but
what about Anthony Ferkser? I mean, he was a legit player last year. Do they have any opportunity to not pass the ball to him? He's 2,700.
Honestly, that's a good call.
Coming off of 7 targets is most of the year against Houston last week. It's
they have nobody else.
Have nobody. I feel like Ferkser would be my preferred option if I'm just going to stone punt it off. It's not a good matchup against New England, but same goes for all those other guys. If he gets a touchdown, he's gonna hit it, and at least he has 7 targets in his range.
That is true. That is true. I think Ferkser is definitely a good punt tight end. Now Ryan Griffin, let me see. This man, 2%, 1% in GPP. Nobody's gonna pay down this week. If Hunter or Janu out, thoughts?
Because they're both questionable, right?
Yeah. So the Patriots tight end room after those is pretty grim. I think it's Devin Asiasi, if he's healthy, would be the tight end 3, if I'm not mistaken. If I
I
know my
thought
own team.
I thought Henry was
Yeah.
good. No,
Asiasi would be the tight end 3. If one of those guys are out, I wouldn't play Asiasi and in anything. They're both questionable. So I'm assuming they both play. But all right. Defense? Do you have any defensive thoughts?
I mean, for cash, it's Houston, right? Like, don't really have to overthink it.
Or Jacksonville?
Yeah, I guess Jacksonville too. They're both home and in good spots. I just prefer Houston because Zach Wilson loves to turn the ball over. So, I mean, it's really that simple. They're so cheap at 2,300. But yeah, you could play shit. You could play the Jets too or the Jags. Like, that's all fine. The question I want to ask you at defense is: do you pay all the way up to the Patriots at 3,900 in this spot? Because I think it's kind of interesting, but
Nah.
no, too rich for your blood.
Way too rich. You could play the Panthers at 3,100. Great defense against Tua. Tua turned the ball over.
I mean, the Patriots are going to be like 1% owned, bro. They could drop 25.
They definitely could. I just don't know if Ryan Tannehill is going to drop back enough for the Patriots to really get there. I think that's just going to be a slow-paced, run-heavy game script for both teams. So don't really love that game and don't love the defenses either. But I mean, yeah, Houston looks good. Jets pass the ball at the highest rate in the NFL. So if we're getting Zach Wilson dropping back a fuck ton, he's going to turn the ball over. Like, it's just that simple. So if they get
More than once, you would think.
if they get like 5 or 6, that's pretty solid. Jags defense is fine. I think that the Steelers look good. The Panthers look good. I think the Eagles look good. Other than that, I don't know. I really wouldn't play any of these defenses up top.
The defenses that I'm interested in for tournaments, like I said, it's for me and it's Houston and cash. In tournaments, I do like trying to find a way up to the Patriots just to be contrarian. I like the Panthers. They have a really strong pass rush right now, and Miami's offensive line is dog water, so they're interesting to me at 3,100. You can make the same exact case for the Eagles for $100 more. So I like both of those plays at defense, and I'm a little bit interested in going with the Bengals as well at 2,700. They're home. There should be a decent amount of dropbacks on the Steelers side of the ball, and it's kind of like making a bet against some of the chalk in Deontay Johnson and Pat Freiermuth. So I like that just from like a tournament leverage standpoint. But,
Yeah, Bengals is a great call. It's a great call at defense with Deontay being high owned, and Big Ben could drop back a lot in this game.
Those are the only thoughts that I have on defense, to be honest.
Yeah, defense is who cares about defense? All right, Brady said build the perfect lineup. All right, we're gonna build the Millie Maker winning lineup right here. You can start it off.
All right. Well, let me think here. You started off because I was gonna go with Jalen Hurts, but I know you're not about that. So
Jalen Hurts is not winning the Millie Maker this week.
All right.
I will tell you that. I will tell everybody that right now.
Start us off with the stack you like, and I'll throw something else in there.
See, the thing is do we go Brady or Stafford with Cup? That's really the only two.
I would like Stafford with Cup.
Well, you should have took the first pick. All right. We're gonna go with Brady, Mike
Evans.
Evans, and Gronk as our
Oh,
stack.
that's disgusting. That's truly disgusting.
That's that's not disgusting. Or do you want Godwin?
Well, no, I mean, I prefer Evans for tournaments, definitely. But the thing is that you kind of locked our bring back in because you know that there's only one player on the Colts that's going to be able to really separate. Put him on in there. Are you going to bring it back with Michael Pittman as stone chalk, or are you going to bring it back with a player who can drop 50 at sub 5% ownership like we saw last week, and he's going to be under 10% again? So yeah, like this is a lot of salary that we've already spent. We got to find a way to save some.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. So all right, so we lock in the cheap D.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go Bengals.
Yeah, throw Bengals in. They're cheap.
Bengals. All right, because like we're not gonna play a chalk Texans D in the Millie. Running back. So we're probably gonna have to pay down to one of these cheap guys at running back. Let me take a gander at this ownership and see what we're working with in projections. So let's see. Ty Johnson would probably be the best, I think.
Ty over Hilliard.
From a projection standpoint, it looks like it would be Ty Johnson would be the play, and we get we get him in the pass game role, and no Tevin Coleman. I don't think Coleman will vulture anything in terms of passing work.
All right, plug him in.
So that's my pick, Ty Johnson.
My favorite wide receiver in the 5K range is Brandon Nyuk. So let's play him. I don't think that his ownership gets out of control. I think there's enough guys that they're going to all kind of like cap each other to a certain extent. Then we have a decision here as to what to do, because we're either going to have to, like play Visca and something like that, or roll 2 tight end, save some salary and get another good wide receiver in there.
Yeah, bringing it back with JT definitely costs a lot of money. But I think he is the correct bring back in this lineup. We could go with a cheap Houston guy. That is a possibility. We could go with like a Nico Collins, he might not play, so maybe not.
That's not a million making pick right there, sir.
Hey, you never know.
Unless you want your cold spring back to be like Zach Pascal or something.
All right, we do Cooks. And then so Cooks is my pick, and then we gotta shoot for the stars. We could do the double bring back with Pascal. Not feeling that.
I'm not feeling that. We got Des Fitzpatrick, Ferkser, some chat suggestions here.
We don't have to play Cooks though. We could go a little bit cheaper at wide receiver. I think Cooks is a good correlation play with.
I don't hate
with
Cooks.
Ty Johnson.
It's just that range is so ass that we're in. Like, I'm trying to look if there's anybody sub 4K that I think is like
ownership doesn't matter. Ownership doesn't matter because we already got the contrarian game stack. I don't know. I think Brandon Cooks is actually pretty chalky. So maybe. He's still a great play.
Are you opposed to going double tight end in this spot?
Absolutely.
Because like if you're talking about a $3,600, like, I would rather play like Michael Pittman and Evan Ingram instead of like Brandon Cooks and Zach Pascal. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the same price.
Or we go T. Higgins.
All right. What's that give us in salary?
4K.
Yeah.
So it'd probably be a receiver.
I mean, for 4,100, you can get one of my favorite long shot plays in the week in Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So maybe we save 100 in defense.
Well, we could like punt at D and get LaVisca.
Yeah. You're eating into some chalk there, but I don't mind that.
So hold on. LaVisca projected to be 12%.
So I mean, you would play, but like if you play Texans D, you're kind of, I don't know. I guess you could play Ty Johnson and Texans D. It's fine.
Or we could just play Jags at home against Matt Ryan and the Falcons.
Yeah, that's fine.
And correlate that with LaVisca.
Plug it on in. See what this lineup looks like.
Something like that. As a Millie maker, this ain't a perfect lineup. You know, our perfect lineup would probably be the optimal cash game lineup.
I mean, this lineup looks like horrible to me, which means it's probably a great tournament lineup. like we always used to, like we used to review the Millie Maker lineup on the podcast every week. We don't really do that anymore, but like sometimes we just look at those lineups and be like, this lineup is so goddamn stupid. I would never come up with this in 100 years. Like this lineup looks just stupid enough to like win a Millie. Honestly, it really does. It's like just dumb enough to win.
I mean, it's a very correlated lineup.
Yeah.
It's just like JT as a bring back in this stack it's just a lot of salary that, you know, restricts a lot.
I mean, do you think you have to double stack Brady?
I think if Brady's paying off 7,600, he's pulling multiple people along with him.
Yeah,
for sure. Because you got to think about it from, you know, from a ceiling and salary perspective. Like for Brady to break the slate at 7,600, he has to score what, 35?
Yeah.
Right. You know, obviously relative to what the other people are doing. Like from a pre-lock standpoint, if we're expecting him to win the Millie, he's probably scoring 35 or like 30 plus minimum. The way he's scoring 30 plus is 303. Are all 3 touchdowns and 100 and 300 yards going to go to one player? No. So that's what it's kind of like. That's the same argument against Jalen Hurts. That's what I was trying to make is like at 7,300, like you need that 35 point upside, and then he'll probably be bringing along people with him. But at that low of a pass rate, the lowest in the NFL, he can't do that at 7,300 unless he scores 3 rushing touchdowns again and goes over 100 yards rushing.
Yeah. Hurts doesn't need to bring multiple people with him to hit his ceiling, unlike Brady, but I think that point definitely stands for Brady.
Yeah. So, and same thing kind of goes with Stafford as well, and you know Rodgers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like
it. It's a correlated lineup. It's not bad.
Couple one-offs in there with T Higgins and Brandon Ayuk. You know, fuck it.
I'm not gonna run that lineup, so you guys could feel free to dupe it.
Are you not gonna run it?
I'm just morally opposed to playing Rob Gronkowski in 2021. Probably a leak in my game.
Yeah, probably is.
I feel like we've touched on everything, man. You feel like we got this slate under control? I feel like we do.
Yeah, until the slate starts.
Look down at our phones at 1:30 and be like, all right, it's chalked once again. Nah. Let's speak it into existence. This is going to be a good ass week, and it's going to be a good week for all of our people viewing too. You know,
yeah,
you
shout
guys
out
are
to everybody watching.
Yeah, shout out to you guys. You're doing, sitting here watching a DFS vid, like 12 hours out from the slate. That's commitment right there.
Yeah, but these are the people that are like grinding
Yeah. they're
process
grinding.
is good.
Yeah. These are the people I don't want to run into in the head-to-heads because they're going to have solid lineups.
Yeah, we want the people that are waking up 11 a.m.,
Yep.
haven't even done a lick of research, just putting in random shit. But, life's better when everybody's eating.
That's facts.
What's the most you guys have won?
In one contest, 3K.
Yeah. Like 500 or 600. I forgot how much it was. It was last year in the playoff game, or in the playoff slate for me. I came in like third in one of the playoff slates. Or not one of. It was the divisional round playoff slate. I think it was the Sunday 2-gamer with the Saints and Bucks, and played a 3% Traquan Smith, and he comes in and gets like 2 catches and 2 touchdowns from Jameis Winston.
That's clutch.
That was fire. And then Chris Godwin, we were talking about it in the Discord, and then Chris Godwin dropped a touchdown for me to bank the GPP.
That's how it goes.
So that is the story of my DFS career.
For now, that story could be rewritten by tomorrow.
All right, last comment. Thoughts on Brady, Taylor, Robinson, Godwin, Pittman, Fitzpatrick, Gronk, Johnson, Texans, D. That looks good to me. Couple pivots off this lineup that makes sense for sure.
Yep, definitely. And that's going to be it, guys, man. I hope you guys gained some information from this live stream. If you're watching on replay, drop a like, sub to the channel, and we will, of course, be back next week as we are every other single Saturday. We appreciate you guys watching, and man, we'll talk to you on the podcast on Monday. Tune in. We'll recap the slate. Let's pray it's not another pain cast.
After I banked the fucking Millie Maker this week.
Yeah.
You like that?
Fuck yeah, there you go. I like it.
Speak it into existence. Law of attraction, everybody.
Yep.
Got to speak
Joey
what
thinks the Millie.
Got to speak what. Got to deposit money first.
Yeah.
Which I usually do after the stream. But
yep. Start reserving your contest. I do that after the stream too.
Yep. But got to speak what you want into existence in life. This is what I've come to realize. So I will win the. Can't even say it without laughing, dude.
You got this, bro. I got faith in you. I got faith in you, dog.
Pray for a min cash at 4:00. All right.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you next week.